I gotta be honest with you guys, I completely blanked when Ed told us who won the dice roll.
I'm pretty sure Lorenzo did, actually.
I'm glad you
and
didn't.
Lorenzo
I
is
was going to say I didn't know either.
Lorenzo is on the Kashtira deck, so I was really surprised by the Kashtira representative, the Kashtira numbers in top 64, because they really went up. It's like over 40% of Kashtira. Yeah, it really, really, really is high.
So the tried and true kind of the deck people thought was the best deck.
But look at that.
Yeah,
I think Gjelil has a lot of cards that could do really well here versus Lorenzo's opening.
Do you see that Droll and Lockbird?
Yep.
It's the ideal response, I would say, to a Pressure Planet Rathos. Rathos?
Raceoff is
Raceoff.
Probably
I'll go with Raceoff.
the correct way to pronounce it. So Gjelil is shuffling because he knows there's maybe no more going into the deck anymore. And there it is, resolving Droll and Lockbird here. Probably going to stop the turn from Lorenzo in its tracks.
Droll and Lockbird was something I really thought would be a cool card to play this weekend, because Kashtira, even though it doesn't do this, I mean, it can sometimes do some crazy combos, but whatever it does, it always wants to search at least a couple of cards from its deck.
For sure. So we are still going to summon out the Unicorn.
Wow, but
that means we have the Theosis already.
So that is going to be at least a Shangri-Ira to summon out a Fenrir in the opponent's turn, or we are just going to summon that one. We might have a Rise Heart in hand, so we could go for a Rise Heart pass.
Because
sorry. Continue.
Yeah, because that would be all the cards that we would have searched anyway, so that Droll and Lockbird would have done nothing.
But it would have done a lot, because this is all resources that you had in your hand. So there is Small World on the side of Gjelil, and there we have the Rise Heart. If you have Small World and you are playing a Kaiju in your deck, like Dogoran, the Mad Flame Kaiju, or something else, you will have a bridge for Small World to just get the Kaiju out. So if your opponent uses all the resources for a Rise Heart pass, then you have a good shot. Hopefully you're not banishing any of these cards with the Rise Heart effect.
As he said, dangerous. Lorenzo has already, he would have 2 extra cards in his hand right now, if not for the Droll and Lockbird. So it's very strange for a hand trap like Droll and Lockbird, which normally most people read it and think that's a -1, as in you use a card, it doesn't directly stop anything your opponent does, but in this case, it's a +1, because Lorenzo's got 2 less cards than he would have.
Ooh, but it's also 2 cards in the spell and trap zone here for Lorenzo, so he might have ways here to stop the plays of Gjelil as well.
And he has played it right here. There was actually a Nibiru, I thought, in the hand.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, very heads-up play.
We are going for the impermanence on a Rise Out, first of all. I mean, that's also a way to deal with it.
That might get answered by a Forbidden Lands, would draw out another one of those set cards in the spell and trap zone. And the good thing about Nibiru in this deck is, if you have a Small World,
you can always use it.
Yeah, you can search one of the good cards.
I'm interested, do you prefer leaving the materials, or do you prefer detaching the materials so you can banish them straight away and make sure they're in their banish zone and use them later?
It depends heavily on whether you have Kashtira preparation set, because Kashtira preparations requires you to special summon from the banished zone, and therefore this would be perfect to now use the effect. But we are resolving Mathmech Circular here, and the impermanence also resolved. And let me tell you something, Lorenzo is one of the players here with the Kashtira deck that has decided to not even run the Forbidden Lands.
But he's running triple Book of Moon, double Book of Eclipse, and triple enemy controller, so there is plenty of stuff that you can see. Now we are seeing the Small World reveal the Nibiru go into Veda, and now add the Diameter as well.
He knew exactly what he was doing with the Small World.
I think that this is something you could also do later in the turn, because now your opponent knows that you have the Diameter follow-up, so this basically makes him not want to negate or book the D'Alembert.
I agree. He might want to have that negate with Diameter online as early as possible. But I do agree with you. It is a different way you could go, because obviously not showing your opponent that you have more follow-up, and obviously committing to that, because Nibiru is a card you can use otherwise, right?
Both the Circular and the Diameter are going to resolve, and I think I see Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse in the main deck of Lorenzo, so both cards would probably have to be used here, I'm assuming, because otherwise there's going to be the potential of a negate for them.
I think there is an impermanent set as well.
Book of Eclipse it feels so steep, the cost of, in the end phase giving your opponent those draws, because that would get 3 draws for your opponent.
But it is Book of Eclipse indeed. And do we have an answer to that? Because as we know, Book of Eclipse could be met with Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, as there is the potential of drawing involved. And I think it is really strong here, because honestly, cards like Effect Veiler or Droll and Lockbird that are to be drawn by Gjelil are then not going to be as effective anymore, because the Arisad will be live again.
And Gjelil is...
Oh, and we are heading to end phase.
He has nothing. He has the equation that he searched. and of course also the small world that we know of, but he has some follow-up for next turn.
I was going to say, you're giving your opponent 3 draws, you don't necessarily have any follow-up in your own hand thanks to the draw and lock bar. Is a Rise Heart going to take on the world by itself, do you think?
I mean, it has to try it.
It will try,
you just lose.
I mean, there's a pretty good line here, because we could just use a Rise Heart effect and then try to banish one of those cards, and then also try to attach the Big Bang at some point. So Big Bang could be our... okay. Oh, we started with
now.
Look, we just... Oh, yeah.
I was going to say you could attack, and then that would let you attach the Rise Heart, and then you could attach the Big Bang. But Lorenzo's going for the Impermanence, which will let him do that in the main phase 1.
Yeah, and I think when we see him do that, that probably or most likely means that he has a way to maybe go for enough damage to seal this game right here, because that's quite a big of a commitment to just get rid of that Impermanence, because that could have helped him next turn, honestly.
But I mean, if you don't go for the Impermanence play, then you might actually not have anything here. So I think extending your field is really strong.
Yeah, I really like this. But it's such a, like, it doesn't look like the Arise Heart's doing anything. You know, all it does is banish cards from the opponent's field. But the ability to reattach and rebanish Kashtira cards is really powerful.
And there comes Kashtira Birth right there.
I would have also really liked a Theosis here, because Theosis would get banished immediately. You could add back the Rise Heart, and then
it's really cool to activate it, Theosis with a Rise Heart in play. I agree.
Normal summon Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, and that tells you something, that he is running the Baron de Fleur in his extra deck, which is just being summoned right there.
Wow, this is crazy. I mean, along with the Kashtira Birth, this might be enough to attack the game on this turn, right? Because
that's what I'm thinking.
Pop 1 with the Baron de Fleur, the Kashtira Birth can get back the Fenrir, and then Fenrir can attack and use its effect to banish.
Can't even get Nibiru anymore.
That's the thing. We saw Nibiru being used for Small World.
Just checking his zones there, because he activated Impermanence.
Yeah. This is looking good for Lorenzo.
We're adding the Fenrir. We can just activate the effect. Oh, he's just attacking. This is game already.
This is great.
It is indeed.
Game in the second turn. That was perfectly played by Lorenzo. He gave his opponent so much advantage with the Book of Eclipse, but it stopped the turn. That was enough.
In the end, again, if your opponent's only drawing in the end phase, it's like, it's not... I mean, if your opponent gets a turn to use those cards, it might be devastating for you. But if you can capitalize on the turn that you've been given by the Book of Eclipse, as we just saw, perfect gameplay.
For sure. I mean, it was a little bit of luck involved, because his opponent did not draw into Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, because that would have been the one interruption that he could have drawn into that would have really helped. Because, like, as I said, Effect Veiler and Drawn Lockbird, I'm not doing it, but that Ash Blossom on Kashtira Unicorn would have been pretty good.
Yeah, but... Oh, yeah, okay, all right, I get it. Yeah, that's true.
That would have been...
To be fair to Lorenzo, he had already played through a Droll. The opponent had Nibiru in hand, which he played around.
But yeah, from there on, he definitely played that out like a charm. Also, it was so quick. What he right away knew that he had to use the Impermanence, and that he had a setup to go for game in that turn. And that is what he did there successfully.
That was a really lovely line. Like,
yeah, for sure.
To spot activating the Impermanence, because, yeah, and then you need to attach the Big Bang first, and then you can get another material out from under the Arise Heart.
Yeah, that's something hard to figure out, and did it on the spot and in a really, really quick time. So let's see what Gjelil can bring in here from his side deck. Something that I see that going first is pretty lovely is Rivalry of Warlords.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that is good in parts versus the Kashtira
it's kind of
deck.
so-so, isn't it? Because there are a lot of cards that can prevent Kashtira from accessing their extra deck, like Rivalry of the Warlords, like Dimensional Barrier. But then a lot of players think maybe it's not so strong, because the Kashtira monsters themselves are quite beefy. They can still banish cards from your field, your extra deck.
But you would rather want to have it plus your combo than not, right? Because this is really strong. You can actually just search it out if you have a really good hand. With Parallel Exceed as an extender, it's easy.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true. And yeah, of course, it would then still make it happen that his opponent could not go into the extra deck, which is pretty strong, because you do have those interruptions. You do usually have super factorials. So if you just leave him on monsters that want to go into the battle phase, and for example, Fenrir would be a monster that in battle phase could get rid of the rivalry, but if you then just use via super factorial, there is no attack happening
to get
anymore.
rid of the Fenrir.
Yeah, it does sound like an excellent sort of complementary piece to all of the rest of your engine going
For sure.
on.
So I definitely think we are going to see that now here in game number 2. The players are shuffled up, so let's get back into the action. Game number 2 here of top 32 of YCS London.
The players are just getting the confirmation that they are on, and now Gjelil can start the second game of the match right here. Hopefully he has access to Mathmech Circular.
That would be a dream start for sure. And I think he
Can we
does
see it
not.
in his hand?
He does
I
not.
can't
I
see
mean,
it from
But
his
he has
flicking.
Sigma and the Parallax seed,
Exactly.
so that works.
Yeah.
Mathmech Circular, just the first time I read the card, I just thought this is unbelievable. Like, special summoning itself by sending a monster from your deck to the graveyard, like, as if that's some sort of cost.
Seems about right.
It
The thing is, the line we see here now from Gjelil really struggles versus one interruption from Lorenzo, so he kind of has to hope there's not any interruption there.
It does deal with infinite impermanence because of the Lingeribo.
True, that's very good
But
there.
an Effect Veiler or an Ash, or possibly a Nibiru at some point.
But
would
it is
be
resolving.
very bad.
But, I mean, okay, there are some lines here. You can, for example, you can now search the Circular, send something funny, because you already have the Sigma, you can send another Sigma, and then you can use the Alembertion to tribute the Lingeribo to summon back the Diameter that you just sent. Yeah, you have to send the Diameter, by the way.
I'm pretty sure you gotta do that, yeah.
And it clears your extra monster zone for Sigma to
Exactly.
come back, which I like. That's a nice line.
Definitely something I could see. And,
it's
it's
just
tributing itself, though.
Okay.
I don't hate that. It's nice to have the Lingeribo as an answer to an evenly matched.
For sure.
That is true as well.
So we are searching for the Super Factorial. So he had that one line, and it was quite risky because it will lose to one interruption, but he already got to the Super Factorial now, so I think he's happy there.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go for it. If it's risky or not, right? You've got to do something.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think he goes from here?
Maybe Splash Mage into Heat Zone?
I like that.
Probably, yeah.
I like that.
There's the Splash Mage. Lorenzo says, of course, I haven't interrupted you yet, so I'm not going to do now.
Now might be the perfect time for a Nibiru.
So there is Heat Soul.
And now we are trying to draw into the rivalry of the Warlords.
That would be a pretty decent draw. You don't want to draw that on your opponent's turn. You would much rather try to pick it up now.
And now, like, obviously seeing a handful of hand traps.
Ooh,
oh
Drawn
my
and Lockbird
goodness.
works as well, though. That's a pretty decent pickup, too.
That's a really good card to draw on the opposing turn, but it also works here.
For sure, for sure.
I was like, having minimal engine is not great until it resolves, and then you have your, all you need is that minimal engine, and then you've got all of the stuff to back it up.
Yeah,
so his hand is just full of interruptions for Lorenzo. He's going to have a very tough time getting through all of this.
I love the hand motion that Gjelil did, by the way, by passing the turn. It's the first slow hand motion is like, am I done with my turn? Yes.
Like a magician setting up his pieces
A
there.
bit of showmanship.
So, Lorenzo, what is he going to do against that? I can have a quick... Oh, that's a
good
lightning
start.
storm going after the back row. So I think Gjelil can be happy that he did not draw into a rivalry then.
That is true. However, we are still going to be able to summon the Laplacian. Not going to get rid of one monster from the field, which is a bit unfortunate. However, taking a card from the hand and having a negate is not too bad either. But if you summon a Unicorn now,
You can just attack it.
you can just attack.
Indeed,
Taking
that's
out the
true.
battle phase is a valuable resource from the opponent.
So, what are we hitting here with the effect of Laplacian? That's pretty important, probably. And that's... I mean, it would have traded 1-for-1 with the Laplacian there.
That is
so
true.
it's probably all right to hit that, but not amazing, I would assume. I would have much rather hit Engine there, to be honest.
I like the way Lorenzo's extra deck is just sort of packed, side deck even, is packed with ways to answer his opponent when he's going second.
Yeah.
Two very powerful cards for going second here.
For sure. Triple-Tactics Thrust, for example, is also a card he is bringing in, and I mean, there was already a monster effect being activated, even two of them.
Oh,
and there's
there
the
it is.
other triple tactic cards, the Talons.
And that one will have to be negated by Laplacian. Otherwise, I see no point in running it. Okay, yeah. There we go.
Exactly. It's always weird if your opponent says in that situation, draw two, you should still negate it.
We are
anyway.
still drawing two, though.
It does.
The Desires is being activated, and this has been a debate lately. People are running Pot of Prosperity in Kashtira for sure, but people were like, oh, I think I need a little bit more of consistency, so they also added the Pot of Desires, but there's the Drone Lockbird. Of course, we knew about that card.
Drone Lockbird versus Desires never feels good, though.
Yeah.
No. But against Kashtira, like, I think it's still just about okay, because there's a lot of cards that Lorenzo could have. The Pressured Planet, the Terraforming,
There's
this
the
Unicorn's not
Unicorn.
going to be able to search.
But that is just very well, if you have no idea on what you're going to make here, just go for a Zeus line.
Yes.
Yep. if I saw that correctly, it looked like Lorenzo only normal summoned the YCS. That means he's not going to be locked into XYZ summoning here. So maybe he has plans doing something else. Maybe
that would be a lot of fun.
There is something else. But I mean, there's not the potential of a normal summoned Ash Blossom now anymore because he did just normal summon the YCS.
He could have special summoned it.
It looked like he just normal summoned it though. Because like it's an effect.
It is an
hand,
effect,
so
I'll grant you, but he could have said.
Oh, but there's also Kashtira Burr for the Fenrir now.
It's still quite an aggressive
this
board.
This is such a good feel to out the opponent. You can get rid of the Heat Soul, you can attack, or you can just out everything and end on the YCS.
Exactly.
Just by attacking.
That is true indeed.
Banish, and then you get a replay, so you can attack with the exactly.
And you get to take out possibly the access code or update jammer from your opponent's extra deck.
Yeah.
This is really strong, not gonna lie.
This is what we call power spells. It's a full turn just of normal spell cards that are just so good that they can tear apart an entire field on their own.
Yeah, so Lorenzo is checking, and of course, Gjelil brought 2 access code talkers, so that would not be the best banish here. Oh, we're reading up on the G Golem there. That's a pretty cool card as well. That has been featured lately. The Crystal Heart in a lot of Mathmech player decks. And I think Lorenzo is considering that, but that's not really the card you need there. And I think it's either going to be Update Jammer or maybe Splash Mage, because those are the cards that are scary in that follow-up turn to maybe go for game. So you can't really get the access code talker out of the equation, so I would assume that that's going to be the card. But maybe you're just ending on Unicorn, and then you can also banish the second access code talker?
It's very possible. Are there any side deck, extra deck monsters?
No.
No, okay.
No,
I was going to say, because sometimes you might think that you need to include 2 copies of a card when you're going second, but you could possibly side out a copy when you're going...
He's going with the access code talker though, so he thinks he may have a way to get rid of that second access code talker too.
One slightly funny thing that I heard somebody mention is normally obviously you kind of arrange your extra deck quite neatly in 3s and 2s and so on, but if you're playing against Kashtira, you just want it in a random order because you don't want them to be able to easily see your strategies. Oh, there's 3 of this, there's 2 of this. You want to make it a little bit harder for them to find.
You got to work with all the tricks, you got to take all the tricks you can get.
Not make it so obvious.
So, are we just going for a Rise Heart here?
I mean, you are under draw on Lockbird, so you can't really...
But look at that! Yeah. So we really are ending on the Unicorn, so we are relying on our deck to also now pick out the second access code talker.
Imagine he went for a Rise Heart. There is a Kaiju, a Cosmic Cyclone, and Parallel Exceeds plus... or Exceed, not Exceeds. Plus the Circular, that is absolutely insane.
Shall I tell you something? The Parallel Exceed is not going to do anything anymore because we already resolved.
Yeah, but it's still one body.
Yeah, it's one body.
I mean, sure, yeah.
It's a very heads-up play from Lorenzo here because a Rise Heart's very powerful, but Unicorn and Fenrir are also very powerful interruptions.
So there comes the Dogoran over the Fenrir. Interesting decision by Gjelil to leave that card in going first, but I do get why, because it is a small word bridge most likely, and even in the follow-up turn, just getting rid of that Arisa or now that Fenrir works out for sure.
I love leaving up the Unicorn as well as a very powerful interruption, and maybe that's why he banished the 1 access code talker, because he thought he was going to leave up the Unicorn and have the ability to banish a second.
And now I'm really excited to see what's going to happen here, because we can just search for equation. We don't have the second Laplation. This is one of the rare occasions where a second Laplation plus Super Factorial would actually be kind of neat.
That would be excellent, yeah.
Yeah, but there's only 1 in the extra decks. And also, we can only attack with 1 monster this turn due to the effect of Mathmech Circular. So we gotta figure out 1 monster that we want to actually end the game or control the game from here on now.
A play that you could make at this point is go for a transcode talker, boost the attack, and or make it with Update Jammer. And then, of course, boost the attack because you are summoning it in the correct zone.
Oh, true, yeah.
And then attack over Unicorn and over the Rise Heart. Set the Cyclone for a possible birth effect. Maybe immediately use it so your opponent can't top deck a normal summon. And the Kaiju would stay on the field then.
Which is a good thing. That's a plus, actually, for sure. I do agree.
Could just attack over the transcode talker.
Yeah,
you would have to find a way sometime to get rid of it.
Yeah, if it's bigger than your monsters, it is still a problem.
I mean, the grind game of the Mathmech deck is really not that great, because the usual game plan of this deck is to do enough on turn 1 to stop your opponent, and then turn 2, you're just going for that big swing with access code talker. But that's not going to happen here.
Kashtira really does put pressure on your deck's resources in quite a unique way compared to a lot of other decks, like banishing a couple of cards from your graveyard, banishing a couple of cards from your extra deck. And it's clearly causing a lot of problems for his opponent here.
So it is going to be the Transcode Talker. Yeah, it's pretty much the only monster you can really summon there.
And don't forget to activate the effect of Update Jammer, so you can attack twice.
Is Update Jammer something you have to activate?
It's actually it's mandatory.
Oh, it's mandatory.
I just recently also had that conversation. Actually, Update Jammer is mandatory.
I wasn't sure myself.
But it is summoning back the Update Jammer here.
Update Jammer does have an extra effect while it's in play, but I very rarely see people use it.
That's true. It almost never comes up. But let's get Update Jammer onto the screen, so maybe it does something really cool here. But first of all, I mean, it will not be able to attack here because the effect of Mathmech Circular was used early on, as I stated. And let's see. Oh, is he also going to use the equation here? We know about the equation, but it seems like there's nothing else you really want to summon here. And also, you cannot really attack. And looking at your extra deck, you will realize there is really nothing that great anymore. He's reading up on the Gjelil Crystal Heart again, but I don't think that card is going to do too much here either.
It's a real puzzle. When just, you know, as I said before, this deck's really efficient. But when, you know, when you break one piece of an efficient deck, like taking both access code talkers out the extra deck, maybe he just wasn't really prepared for this possibility.
I mean, that's why you're playing 2, right?
Exactly. You're like, hey, I'm playing 2, so I don't get in trouble with that. But here he is. Ooh, okay.
Now
For a second, I thought we are going after the Dogo round, but no.
That is, by the way, a lot of damage because of another effect of the Update Jammer, because if an opponent's monster is destroyed by battle, it's 1,000 damage more.
Ooh, that's pretty good then.
So the Transcode Talker buffs itself up to 2,800, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, so that would be 13 over the Rise Heart and 300 over the Unicorn, plus another 2. Oh, what's going on here?
What's happening here? So we did replay that. The Update Jammer was not summoned out. Oh! Was there some card that was a non-Cybers monster being used this turn? Oh, he summoned the Dogo round, and you are only allowed to summon Cybers monsters when you want to use the effect of Transcode. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal here because the Update Jammer didn't do that much anyhow. But still, that's not too great.
The Update Jammer gives attack.
Without being co-linked, it doesn't gain any extra attack points.
So there's the Gjelil Crystal Heart now. We are going for that. That is interesting because I didn't see this one coming in here. And you can target one Earth Link monster in your graveyard. You can just special summon back the Transcode Talker, and then it is co-linked again.
Oh, that is absolutely the wrong
Crystal Heart.
Oh, that was the Marince's one.
The first
really
Crystal Heart I thought of, but it's not. And that's the game.
Wow. That is crazy.
Really heads-up play from Lorenzo there.
Wow. Absolutely fantastic here. I mean, it was really unfortunate that he used the Dogoran and then later on forgot about it, trying to go for the Transcode effect. I mean, but it's still very well played from Lorenzo because the obvious play would have been go for a Rise Hard pass. You have the Banish there, but no, he knew. I can take out one access code, and if I leave my Unicorn on the field, I can go for a second one.
Yeah, imagine that Gjelil had an access code talker there. I think he could have easily broke the entire board and then also had a Cosmic Cyclone to back it up.
Yeah, it would have been game immediately.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, really. Do you think this is something you get from experience? Because it's not an obvious thing to do, just to say, I know for a fact that if I'm playing against Mathmech and I banish both their access code talkers, they're not going to be able to beat me.
For sure. And I mean, Lorenzo Muselli definitely is somebody that we saw in the top cuts of recent events. He is really grinding the YCS events, so it's definitely someone you could expect to maybe have that deep run this time because he had a couple of deeper runs lately.
He has been topping everything, and maybe this is finally the event where he pulls through all the way to the finals.
I could definitely see that coming because he is really performing on a super, super high level. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one taking it all down.
And with the best deck and a nicely teched version of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there were some good books. Like, deck is a good read, so you can actually counter some. I mean, game 1, it looked really bad for him at first, but the one Book of Eclipse that he had just won him the game. He gave his opponents 3 cards, and I mean, we're in a format where Runic Fountain is really good, so letting your opponent draw 3 cards is really most of the time not the play, but if you can survive the turn and then just OTK straight up with no effort whatsoever, it's great.
I love the way he just sort of squeezed all of the value out of his Rise Heart, you know, getting to not only banish one of his opponent's monsters, but then also somehow using a Rise Heart, which again,
the
summon the monster
was
back.
just fantastic. So, we have heard from us about this matchup, but Ed, can you ask our winner of the last round what he has to say about this?
Thank you, guys. I am here with Lorenzo, who's just ended up taking that top 32 feature match and has gone straight into the top 16. No stranger to top cuts at these YCS tournaments. You were saying Utrecht and Lyon and others. You've top cut quite a lot. So here you are. Are you enjoying the current format with Kashtira and things?
I don't really enjoy the format, but I mean, I like all the playing and go to events, so I went to play. I want to play.
What was it that made you choose the Kashtira deck out of all the... Because we've got quite a lot in this current format. Why did you go with Kashtira?
It has pretty much all the decks, but I think Kashtira is the best one to pick for this event because as just a Rise Heart that many decks has problem with it. So I just picked this for this reason.
It makes sense. We had 41% of the top 64 were using Kashtira, so you're not alone in thinking that it's a good choice for the day. Let's go through the 2 games that you just had. So you got drolled on the field spell, but you made a Rise Heart and passed, and then the Rise Heart got impermed as well. So there's a lot of difficult things to navigate around that. What's going through your mind when you sort of have to keep going through so many different things?
So game 1, he made droll. So I know that he's playing Mathmech, so I think he has also Nibiru in the deck. And then I could have played much extend, but I just Arise Pass because like Circular, he can activate Circular and like this, but he has also Impermanence. But unfortunately, I had Book of Eclipse to end up his turn, and then I drew Ash. Then Baron, and I make a play with the Kashtira Big Bang to summon Unicorn and to finish the game.
You went for the OTK, all very good. And then obviously game 2, there was a little bit of stuttering at the end, which we'll talk about in a moment. But Gjelil started really well with a full combo and built a good field, but then you managed to lightning storm the back row and things, and then you had triple tactics talent to force out the negation. Then you attacked over Jelil's monsters, so you were already in a really good life points advantage for a while. And then just at the end, there was the misplay with transcode because of the Kaiju summon, because obviously you had your Fenrir Doggerand. And then that meant that you can't, because I think the effect says that you can only do it when there's Cyburst monsters, but there was one dinosaur monster special effect. So when that was happening, was that quite easy to resolve, or did that complicate things?
No, it was quite easy. The thing is, the game 2, when I took over his field, I managed to banish 2 Hatches code because I leave a Unicorn on the field. And then I leave 3 monsters on the field with Bird, so a lot of pressure. And then also with the Kaijus, but he admit defeat the next turn.
Absolutely, and it just basically, that was where it all ended, admitted defeat, and there you are, a 2-game win in your top 32 feature match. Very exciting. As you go into the top 16, is there anything that you're worried about going up against? Do you fear the mirror match, for instance, or are you pretty confident with mirror match?
No, I'm pretty confident. I know the mirror match pretty good, and I want to play, and I want to go at the end of the tournament, as always.
Excellent. Well, best of luck to you, Lorenzo. Congratulations on getting this far. I wish you the best of luck through the rest of that top 16. Guys, don't go anywhere. We've got plenty more coverage coming your way before we get into that top 16 feature match very, very soon.